Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Form Check Friday. This is the series where we take your users' submitted videos, we put them up on the screen behind me, and I do my best to try to pinpoint maybe a few cues, a couple of tips to try to help people lift more efficiently so we can get a little more weight on the bar and make more progress. So if you'd like to submit to Form Check Friday, we're going to ask that you email your submission to formcheckfriday@gmail.com. And that's pretty much all the housekeeping. If you like these, then make sure to tune in. Head over to twitch.tv/Calgary Barbell. We are going to be live streaming our form checks once or twice a week. There's a countdown schedule. All of our stuff's on there so you can see when we're going to be streaming with some consistency. So without any further ado, and I know I'm starting to say that every single form check, but hey, it's kind of my thing now. We're going to get into this. So our first one comes from RD Abdow. Just letting you know that this is 265 pounds. I've tried 275 pounds and it felt much heavier for some reason. Also, I lift for field sport performance, if that context helps you in any way. Thank you. All right, man, let us take a look and see what we've got here. Ooh, that audio is definitely coming through. Sorry about that, guys. So we're doing some conventional deadlifts here. And he said lifting for sport, field sport performance. Looks pretty darn good. It's tough without being able to see sort of what's going on here, but I think we can come up with some tips, give a little bit of a critique here. That was a better rep than the other ones. I'm just gonna watch this all the way through before we make any sort of analysis. So we make sure we get the full context of the video. All right. So overall, this looks like a really good set of deadlifts. I don't think that there are any major problems. The biggest issue that I think we're seeing here is when we pull into position, we're doing a pretty good job of pulling into position, but then the momentum off the floor is more pulling back, which is gonna push the hips under and cause us to lose a little bit of extension in that low back, which can cause a little bit of inefficiency. So I like that you're pulling the shoulder blades in. I like that you're rocking your weight onto your heels, but once you're in this position, I want you to think about extending at the knee joint, specifically quads off the floor to try to push that bar straight up. When you start pulling back early, like I said, it pushes the butt in, we lose a little bit of that low back extension, it causes a little bit of a less efficient lift. And you can see as we initiate the lift, this portion right here, we're still pulling back, we're still pulling hip extension, when at that point we should really just be pushing knee extension. So pulls into a pretty good start position, but I think if we can think more about kind of leg pressing the floor away, think a little bit more about pushing the bar off the floor rather than starting to pull as soon as we initiate the lift, I think that'll go a ways for you. All right. Our next submission here is from Robert Rosen. Now, Robert Rosen is a USAPL powerlifter. This is an equipped bench he sent in, which is always exciting for me. I know we have a few followers out there who are into the equipped stuff, so this one is for you. He says he's been working on learning it by himself. He's never competed in equipment before. Some problems he's noticed with his bench shirt is that touching seems very difficult, almost irrelevant to how jacked the shirt is. And for those of you who aren't familiar with equipment, generally with a bench shirt, what we can do is if we pull the collar up like this, it takes a little bit of the stress and the stretch and the tension out of the chest plate, makes it easier to manipulate. When we want to get a lot more out of it, we pull the front of the shirt down, which causes the chest plate to stretch a little bit more. You can also do some things with the sleeve, but that's what he means when he says jacked or not. Jacked would be pulled down here to get maximum amount out of the shirt. Not jacked would be up here, so we're getting less out of the shirt. For reference, his raw max is 345, but his max with the shirt is 385. Now this is an F6, so it's a relatively entry-level shirt. He says he believes he compromises positioning, arching, or touching too low in order to get a touch. But even if I manage a touch in a way that I don't believe compromised by positioning, locking out becomes practically impossible. Here's the link to my video, and please let me know if you need the raw file instead of it uploaded to YouTube. And YouTube is just fine. We've got it pulled up right over here. We're gonna max this out, and actually, I think we might have to use theater mode, but that's fine. And Boom, there we go. So let's take a look at this shirted bench session. Now that to me looks pretty good. We're doing a pretty good job of keeping the shoulders depressed. You'll notice a lot of lifters, as they get the shirt starts to kick in, we see those shoulders really shrug up a little bit. Honestly, this looks to me like pretty quality work. Might be a case of needing to break the shirt in a little bit more. It might be the case of we are maybe starting a little bit elevated in the traps, so in the shoulder blades, so we might want to see a little bit more shoulder blade depression, and we talked about this in a recent squat video actually. And the other thing is we might just need a little bit more weight on the bar. So I don't honestly see a whole lot wrong with the technique here. I like that you're nice and patient into the bottom. The one thing maybe is by this point right here, that bar is starting to drift out and those elbows are starting to drift back. So I would work pretty hard on trying to keep those elbows tucked in a little bit more. A lot of times in the shirt, we definitely do need to cue that tucking of the elbows just a little bit more than we otherwise would. So that's something to be conscious of there. But all in all, I think for shirted work, you know, this is a pretty good place. This is what, 365 or so. So this is his raw max and only 20 pounds from his from what he said his shirted max is. I think there might be a part of it. Sorry, is there a way to, what's going on here? There we go. I think part of it might be that we need to get more weight on the bar. We need to get a little bit more comfortable with more load so that we can consistently get touches. But this kind of rep work here, we're repping 365, and you said your max with the shirt is 385. So I would say we need a little bit more practice in the shirt. I would say that we need to tuck the elbows a little bit harder, maybe depress the shoulder blades a tiny bit more and pull those shoulder blades down into the back, and just practice. Break that shirt in, keep working with it, and I think that'll go a long ways for you, man. So our next submission here comes from Harry. He said this is a video of him deadlifting 160 for 3 on a bad day. He said he had a lot of fatigue from deadlifting heavy only 5 days prior. He wants to thank us in advance, and that's that. So let's take a look at this, Harry. This deadlift that you've sent in. We'll get this opened up. Boom. All right. So Harry, let's see what we're working with here. We're doing some conventional deadlifts. Now let's see. So it looks like he's kind of maybe checking in the mirror beside him to see how his back positioning is. Good. All right. So a few things I noticed sort of right off the hop here is as you pull into tension, we still have a little bit of flexion in this low back here. And again, not a huge big thing, but it can cause some inefficiency. I also want everybody to watch his heels as he goes through this. Watch these heels right here. See how we kind of drift forward onto the toes off the floor? As he starts to pull, we're forward, and you can see those heels kind of eking up. As he goes to set the weight down, same thing. Every time we pull, those heels are coming up. So that tells me that we need to work a little bit more on trying to stay properly rooted, trying to keep those heels down and keep pressure through the whole of the foot, between the ball of the foot and the heel. Another thing it looks like to me, if we can just get pulled in here, is that it looks like your grip is quite wide. So it looks like we could probably get into a better back position by being a little bit more upright, not forcing ourselves down to the bar so far, by bringing that grip in a little bit. So we want the grip kind of just outside of the shins. We don't want it so far that we're crowding the knees, causing the knees to kind of go valgus and point in towards one another. But what we do want is we want to minimize that range of motion by not being excessively wide with the grip. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. So try to find a bit of a better back position. Try to keep those heels down, and let's bring that grip in a little bit. Be very surprised if that doesn't help you out, my man. Alrighty. And our last one for today is gonna come from Jack Hamilton. Now, let me pull up Jack's email here. So he doesn't say much. He just says that he emailed in recently about deadlift form, but would rather have the video in this email attached critiqued than the other one. Best regards, Jack Hamilton. All right, Jackie boy, let's see what we got. All right, so it looks like Some sumo deadlifts here. Nice little basement gym. Got the kids mats on the floor, always a good move. Good, man. Really good. These look quite solid. Really good start position-ish, but the initiation of the movement definitely needs work. Like, it looks to me like we're pulling into a pretty decent position, but the problem is we're not pulling into it as much as we're just sitting to it. That rep was a little bit better. So we're not creating a lot of tension before the bar leaves the floor. You're sort of finding your position and then pushing before there's any tightness between you and the bar. So especially on this first rep, we can see that the position you pull into and the position you end up pulling from are quite different. So let's just kind of watch through this a little bit slower. So there we go, but you can see as we pull in, the knees, if I can outline the knee there. Damn, I'm getting good at this pen thing. As we pull in, see how much further that knee rocks forward? Ideally, we'd be keeping that knee closer to this mark, which yes, is gonna put the hips a little bit higher, but, oop, should have kept that. Hold on a sec here. We're gonna go back, pull in. So about there, I think is probably where I would want your knee and your hip position to be. Now let's watch and see. Okay, we pull in quite a bit. Now when the bar leaves the floor, look what position we return to. So if we had created tension in this position, pull the lats down, force that little bit of extension. I mean, the extension here is good, but you want to kind of have tension into the bar when you create that extension so that we're getting tension through the quads, we're getting tension through the glutes and hams. But look at how close it is to the marks that I originally made here. And maybe I'll try to reinforce those ones. But this is where we started when I said, okay, this is about where I would want you to be. And this is where we return to before the bar comes off the floor. So again, we pull down way low in the hips, but before the bar comes up, that's exactly where the hip ends up. So I want you to work on creating a more knees back, higher hip position before you start the lift, and we'll go from there. Other than that, the mechanics look good, your back position, your bracing looks good, the timing of sort of pushing off the floor, pulling near lockout, all those kinds of things look really, really good. The biggest thing is just gonna be creating tension and creating a bit of a better start position. And that, my friends, is it for Form Check Friday. So again, if you would like to submit for Form Check Friday, please send your emails to formcheckfriday@gmail.com. There's no need to submit more than once unless you have some sort of update. If you have a different lift you want to submit, then feel free to email in once or twice if need be. But we use a random number generator. We go through the entirety of the bank of emails that have been submitted and we choose from that. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Like I said, if you like this content, be sure to check out twitch.tv/Calgary Barbell for our live stream content, and stay tuned to the channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you all in the next one.